Hey everybody, it's Austin Ward for Letterman Row. I am back for betting B1G with my good friend Tim Shoemaker. Obviously, this one's brought to you by the equipment room back here. If all of our brand new Letterman Row stuff, you could use the winnings that, if you followed my advice last week when I went 6-0, you could buy a bunch of our stuff and rep it around town. And Tim, how'd you do week one?
Broke even,
okay.
Which is pretty much the story of my life. So
well, at least you left with some free t-shirts.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Don't win any money, don't lose any money, but there's no real fun in that. But hey.
Well, I enjoyed your analysis either way,
yeah,
so that's
exactly.
all that matters. So we're back for more. It's week 2. Tim, the slate's not quite as good, but there are a couple games, of course, that jump out outside of the Big Ten. Let's start on that West Coast with a Pac-12 game. Stanford didn't look great, but they're 5.5-point favorites. Early game against USC, a big test.
Yeah, for sure. This is a super exciting matchup, I think, for Pac-12 After Dark, as we like to call it. Yeah, I wasn't super overly impressed with Stanford in week 1, but that doesn't really change my opinion. I think they're still a pretty good football team. USC got tons of talent like they always do,
right,
but just seemed to kind of underachieve under Clay Helton a bit at times. I think this is. I view this kind of as a real toss-up game, and in those kind of situations, I like to just roll with the points.
Yeah.
I know Stanford's at home, but USC I think beat them twice last year, and I think in this situation I'll kind of just roll with the points in a toss-up game. I'm not really sure who's going to win, but Stanford could definitely win the game, but I think USC will cover the spread.
Yeah, I saw just Stanford struggling a little bit early last week, and Bryce Love not doing much to put up yardage. I think you're right. This is a tough one to pick early in the season. USC is wildly unpredictable, it seems like, in September. But now Stanford is so boring to me, and they don't have much of a home field advantage.
Right,
exactly. I saw a picture right before kickoff with like 2,000 people in that stadium. So I think I'm actually going to roll here with you and take those points. I think USC is probably going to win this one outright, just to double down on that one. So we got that one out of the way. Another big one, Clemson and Texas A&M. Clemson on the road and a 13-point favorite. Those are always tricky double-digit home underdogs. What do you have here?
Yeah, and that's exactly. I hate betting against home underdogs. Betting on the road favorite is I don't know. It's just not a great strategy overall. But hey, I'm going to do it just because I think Clemson is far and away the better team, and I especially think with that dominant defensive line, they're going to control just about every game that they play. I think this kind of, to me, has a game that has a feel of might be close at halftime, and Clemson kind of finds their offensive, because that's the question with Clemson, right? Is they're going to play really good defense with that dominant D line, but is their offense going to click? I think this might be a game where maybe they struggle a little bit in the first half offensively, but then kind of get it rolling. And I like them to cover the spread.
I wonder if Jimbo just thought he was done with Dabo.
Yeah, right.
Moving on, getting out of the ACC, and you get this surprise in week 2. Clemson's so good, just multiple quarterbacks that can help them put up points. And I don't know, I'm not a believer in what's going on in the Aggies or College Station right now. 12th man, they could play with 12. I'm not sure that's going to slow down Clemson. So I'll take Dabo's boys to cover there. Another team that's in the mix for the college football playoff in a ranked versus ranked matchup. There are not very many of them this week, but Georgia, another road double-digit favorite at South Carolina. Where's this one falling for you?
Yeah, and again, I'm going against my better judgment, betting against the home underdog, but I think Georgia's far and away the better team here, and I don't think 10 points is that much to give up for them. I think they win this game by at least 2 touchdowns.
I think Georgia is going to win but not cover here. I just have a crazy feeling
about games?
Like Gamecocks defense, and maybe it'll get even more squirrely than that, but early in the year, you see some of this stuff, especially in these SEC games, and coaches that know each other well. This isn't normally a coach in South Carolina that I would want to put any money on, but I'm going to do it this way. I think this is one of those weeks where you and I are just kind of looking at it like something weird has to happen with some of these spreads. So, speaking of weird stuff, you referenced this in your column here Friday. Michigan State just looked pretty awful for about 59 minutes last week. Now they go on the road against Arizona State. They are another road favorite. Are the good Spartans going to show up, or are we going to have another, sort of strange one on Saturday night here?
Yeah, I don't know. Mark D'Antonio is good at this kind of stuff, getting his team to purposely play bad. I'm a full believer in that conspiracy theory that he
just adding an extra chip to the shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. A little disrespect card is going to be. in full force now, that everyone's going to be writing off Michigan State because they looked pretty awful in week 1, as they do. And then at the end of the season, they're 10-2 team fighting for a place in Indy. This is a kind of a weird game for me too. I don't really know what to make of Arizona State. I think Michigan State's going to win this game, but I think it might be closer than the spread's calling. I'm going to take the home team here and roll with the points.
Yeah, it's tough to figure what's going to happen. Going from East Lansing to the desert, and no matter, I don't know what that weather is going to be like when they get there, but that's a challenging road environment. Maybe the crowd won't be fully much of an issue for them, but we'll see. I think it was weird to watch Michigan State in week 1. I had much higher expectations for them and several other Big Ten East teams, if we're being honest. But I think right here, you look at Herm and that team. I don't have any reason to think that they're good enough to win this game or to cover.
Yeah, I can't believe that I actually picked Herm Edwards in a way over Mark D'Antonio, but I did.
It happened, and one of us is going to be right.
Right, yeah, exactly. I do think Michigan State will win the game. It's just a matter of whether or not they're covering. I'll just take the points here because I've bet against 2 other road teams.
There you go.
So I'll take the home.
Somebody's got to handle the business at home, and at home in the Big Ten as well. Nebraska, the long-awaited, weather-delayed debut for Scott Frost, the return of an old rivalry with Colorado here. Now they're both in different leagues than what they used to. A lot of changes there, but Nebraska is a 5.5-point favorite, 5-point favorite. You've got them here. Mm-hmm. So, what do you think? We had to wait 1 week for the Huskers. Can they get it done in the new debut for Scott Frost?
Yeah, Nebraska's still a giant mystery, right? We haven't seen them play, so I do think they're going to win this game. But I did pick Colorado plus the 5 points. This could be one of those wild, weird Nebraska games that we see, where there's a lot of points going back and forth, a couple crazy turnovers, whatever. But at the end of the day, I do think Nebraska wins, but Colorado covers.
Yeah, it's one of those weird, spreads, tweener spreads, where it gets dicey, where it's a late field goal or whatever to backdoor cover. I think that Nebraska, you have that extra week, to prepare here. Not that you need it coming out of training camp. They just, all those gimmicks that they might have used to get some excitement last week with Scott Frost, now they're saved up for Colorado. But again, the flip side is I could go either way. It's still going to be the same, probably pretty porous Nebraska defense that everybody has seen for the last couple of years. The Black Shirts have been missing in action for a long time. I think there's going to be enough offense to cover for that. And when I look now just to the league affiliation, and I don't think much of the Pac-12 from top to bottom, if Colorado is supposed to be a competitive team in that league, that still doesn't even say that much about them.
Yeah, I struggled with this game just because there's so much unknown with Nebraska. It's a new coaching staff. We haven't seen them play.
Yeah.
A weird spread. Those kind of things happen, but when in doubt, I'm taking the points.
There you go. Well, what about with this one? The last one, as we pick Ohio State games every single week here at Letterman Row. This week it's 35.5. You and I sat here last Friday and said you couldn't make the spread high enough. Now Ohio State's defense tried to shrink it a little bit in the opener against Oregon State. The 35.5 is that number that you and I are going to work off right here. What do you see with the Rutgers Scarlet Knights coming into the Horseshoe?
Yeah, we said last week Ohio State was going to try and put up 70, and they did. Yep. And I don't think either of us saw the defense giving up 31 points, so that was kind of surprising and why that spread was a little up in the air for a while there. I do think Rutgers is a better team, and they've been better each year under Chris Ash. I think they're better than Oregon State was a week ago. I don't think this game is going to be close. But you mentioned the old backdoor cover in our last pick'em, and this game to me screams like a Rutgers backdoor cover somehow.
Yeah.
I think it could be something like 56-14 late in the fourth quarter, and Rutgers gets some weird touchdown and covers the spread at 35. But I actually picked Rutgers to cover the spread.
Wow.
Which is wild because they haven't scored in 2 years against Ohio State. But I don't know. I don't think Ohio State completely fixes their issues defensively in 1 week. It's not a 1 week fix. I think Rutgers might get maybe one big play touchdown. They might have some weird turnover that results in a short field, and then they get a late garbage touchdown that doesn't really matter. So I'm taking the Fighting Chris Ashes to cover the 35.5 point spread. That half point is
key.
Clutch.
It's key.
Yeah.
Okay, you're a braver man than I, and you and I have seen some absolutely mind-numbingly boring Ohio State Rutgers games in the last few years. The backdoor cover. Rutgers tried to backdoor score and break up a shutout last year and couldn't convert the field goal.
Wasted a lot of time watching Ohio State Rutgers.
That was that's been amusing to say the least. So to me, the question is, can Rutgers even score? Okay. I mean, I think Ohio State's going to play better defensively. You have that jump from week 1 to week 2. A lot of new faces that were on the field, especially. You remove Nick Bosa, Draymond Jones, Tuff Borland, and Jordan Fuller from that lineup. Some weird things are going to happen. Now, I think, is Jordan Fuller going to play this whole game? Is Tuff Borland going to play more than 10 snaps? I don't know what their availability is going to be. I don't know that they're going to have to play that much. The same might be true for Jones and Bosa. So you might be onto something there with the late touchdowns and popping something. I just can't see it with Rutgers. They may be better, but the gap between Ohio State and Penn State, Michigan, the top half. Sorry, I didn't even mean to. I shouldn't have thrown Michigan in there. I was a little premature. But the teams that recruit so well, the margin between them and Rutgers is just so huge. I still think Ohio State will cover. I think I'd like to see Rutgers make it a little more interesting, but it's not going to happen. I think this one's going to be something around 56-63 to 0 or maybe 3. And that's it. I said it last week. It's crazy to say these scores,
right?
But, I think that's going to happen. It's still a motivated Ohio State team.
Yeah, I did some weird things this week, picking Herm Edwards and Rutgers and all those kinds of things. But that's what let's get a little weird with these crazy weekends in college football, where you go into it not thinking much, and then all kinds of chaos breaks loose.
That's what he's here for. That's the kind of analysis that Tim Shoemaker is going to give you
else.
Every Friday. It's right here. All of the stuff right here with the winnings from whatever Tim's picks are this week. You can take it and reinvest it here in the equipment room. So check out every Friday. We're going to be here for Betting B1G. He's Tim Shoemaker. I'm Austin Ward. We'll see you next week for Letterman Row.